blog talk thing. This is the Urban Therapy with Sun Show. I'm your host, Sun752. I'm trying to get this thing to the point where we can call into the show, and it's not really working out on the blog talk side. So
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
hold on. We're gonna try it again. We're gonna try it one more time, and if it don't work this time, then we gonna have to keep it pushing, son. We're gonna have to keep it pushing. That ain't even right.
To start your show now.
That ain't even right. It keeps saying that they're having an issue. All right, it physically says, or should I say the written word says, we are currently experiencing an issue with our live broadcast system. Our engineers are working to fix this issue.
We are sorry, but we are experiencing a problem with our system. Please try your call again later or report a problem through the Blog Talk Radio webpage. To start your show now, press 1. To hear important instructions, press 2.
Man, this is corny. But today on the Urban Therapy with Sun Show, we are talking about broken trauma bonds. Broken trauma bonds. All right, let's get something straight. When I decided to do this show, it was actually earlier this week. And I was all set up and ready to do the show. But then when I went to go research and make sure that I knew exactly what I was talking about, because I don't really like to do shows in which I'm a little green or limited knowledge of the topic. So I said, well, let me go ahead and look this thing up to make sure that this is talking about what I think it's supposed to be talking about, and to make sure that I'm on board with it. So I looked up trauma bonds. And I thought a trauma bond was a connection, a partnership, or a feeling of kinship or brotherhood that a person experiences with a person that they have been through a tragic situation with. Sort of like PST, sort of like brothers in arms. We went to Iraq, we went to Afghanistan, and we both lost soldiers and comrades in combat, and those are the things that have kept us together. So even though we may not get along that well, even though we may not have that much in common, even though socially, in a normal social environment, you and I would not be close, or we would not be friends, because of this situation that we both have been in, we are bonded and we are close. It could be the same thing as if you were brothers and sisters or cousins or family members of some type, and you have been through some kind of tragedy or some type of unwanted situation that gives you some type of physical, spiritual, mental, emotional connection with somebody. So y'all are bonded that way. That's what I thought a trauma bond was. I was wrong. And so after I looked up what a trauma bond actually was, it changed everything for me. So I'm going to re-look it up so y'all can hear what a trauma bond is. What is a trauma bond?
According to Safer Places, a trauma bond is a connection between an abusive person and the individual they abuse. It is reflective of an attachment created by repeating physical or emotional trauma with positive reinforcement.
That's a lot different than what I thought it was. It's a lot different than what I thought it was. And if you missed it, I'm going to repeat what they said a trauma bond was. A trauma bond is a connection between an abusive person and the individual they abuse. It is reflective of an attachment created by repeating physical or emotional trauma with positive reinforcement. I'm going to come back to that. It can be hard to spot and even harder to break free from. It can be hard to spot and even harder to break free from. So listening to that example, Do you know anybody that shares a trauma bond? Do you know of any situations where there has been trauma bonding? And are you sure of who is the person that has caused the trauma and the one that has suffered from the trauma? So I'm not giving y'all a quiz. This is not an exercise or whatever, but I really wanted to go over this because this is something that sounds like something else that we may be familiar with, or some of us may be familiar with. Anybody who is interested in psychology and stuff like that. I'm not talking about the everyday personal social media, talking about who is toxic and who is narcissistic and things like that. But when you hear the true definition or the clinical definition of what trauma bonding is, then it sounds like Stockholm syndrome. Here's the difference between trauma bonding and Stockholm syndrome. And I see that Care Bear, you said it's sort of like Stockholm syndrome. In a way, it is. The thing that separates it from Stockholm syndrome is the positive reinforcement part of it. The positive reinforcement part of it. So, in a trauma bond, this is some really, really cerebral, crazy shit. In a trauma bond, the abuser will inflict physical or emotional or mental abuse on the victim, but at the same time, tell the victim how great they are, how pretty they are, or how they made them do this to them. In Stockholm syndrome, the person who has been abused or has been damaged or whatever, they have made their own choice to identify with their abusers. In a trauma bond, the abused has not identified with their abuser. They have more so cozied up to them and kind of hoping that it won't be that way anymore if they can follow the instructions that the abuser has given them. Because once they do what the abuser has told them to do, then the abuse will stop. Everybody will be okay. So in a trauma bond, it's sort of like somebody has been whooping your ass or pulling the wool over your eyes for years. And you look at them like they're sort of a father, or sort of like a mother, sort of like a brother, sort of like a sister, sort of like a lover. So it's a little, it's the same. It's like a homonym. Y'all remember in school when we learned about homonyms? It sounds the same, but it's spelled differently. Or is it's written the same but means different? Anyway, broken trauma bonds. Probably the most important part of this show that we're going to do right now is the broken part. How do you separate yourself, or how do you separate yourself from this abuse? How do you separate yourself from this thing that you have grown to accept as a part of your life? How do you break it? What can happen in order for you to finally see the light? Does it happen naturally, or does something have to happen? Does another trauma have to take place in order for you to break that bond? That's what we're talking about today on the Urban Therapy with Sun show. So let's get it popping. Urban Therapy with Sun 752. This is the Urban Therapy with Sun show. We do this every single Saturday from 1 p.m. till around 2:30-ish. And the reason that we say 2:30-ish is because sometimes it gets so heated that we just have to do a little OT on a Saturday. And it is a Saturday. This is the show where adults come out and play with other adults. We laugh, we cry, we argue, fuss, and fight, go back and forth with each other, bust it up all crazy. We take an introspective look into our own personality to see the way that the universe projects us into this thing called the world and try to figure out this thing called life. I'm your host, Son752, aka Omar with the and if you can't say Omar with the well, then you just say Omar with the R. This is the Urban Therapy with Son show. Today we are talking about broken trauma bonds. But hold on for a second. Hey, Del, what's going on? She all right? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. oh, that's what got you out. Okay, I got you. All right, I'll call you. I'll call you afterwards. All right. Yeah. So what we got, y'all? I mean, do y'all understand what we're talking about today? Because, like I said, I had it all wrong. I really thought that it was something else, and I found out that this is what it is. So it kind of made me have to remix what I thought I was going to say, or what I was going to say, because what I was going to say would have been totally wrong, unless there are multiple definitions of this situation, and I'm not sure that there are. I haven't seen any other definitions or other ways to convey this phenomenon. I haven't seen it. So, but they have some interesting questions when you Google it, like how long does a trauma bond last? And it says a trauma bond is usually formed when two people have faced a difficult situation together and have grown to depend on, wait a minute, look at this, and have grown to depend on each other for emotional support. This type of bond can last for months or even years, depending on the intensity of the trauma experienced and the level of emotional attachment between the individuals. Now, okay, so on one end, the number one definition is when the abused person has formed a deep personal or emotional connection with the person that has abused them because of positive reinforcement. But then when you ask how long a trauma bond can last, it suggests that both of you have been through something. What's it going to be? Is it possible that the abused and the abuser have both been through something, but one has become the abused and one has become the abuser? We probably have to research a little bit more, look into it a little bit more. Probably. But here we are. Care Bear says, I thought that trauma bonding was people bonding over similar traumatic experiences. Maybe from what I just read, maybe that has something to do with it also, but that may not be the thing that forms the trauma bond. Like, let's say, and I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not going to say that I know this for a fact, because evidently I don't have enough information to be able to speak with certainty that this is what this is, and this is what that is, and these are the differences between the two. I'm not prepared to do that yet, but I will say this. I'm thinking that maybe it could be like, maybe you and I both have been abused by our parents. You and I have both been abused by our parents. Mommy and daddy used to knock us up the side of our head, ridicule us, humiliate us, put us down, and really just not act like they ever loved us. And I carried that behavior into adulthood and started doing what mommy and daddy did to me, or mommy or daddy did to me, I started doing to you. and you submitted to mommy and or daddy and me. So we had a trauma bond, even though I became the catalyst for our trauma bond. I was the abuser. And maybe that's the thing that that kept us together. That's the best I can do for now. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I've thought that this was a topic worthy of being spoken about. So let's go ahead and do it. Broken trauma bond. Now, from the definition, the number one definition that I gave y'all, what can you say about identifying someone who has been in a trauma bond? Do you know of these situations that are similar to Stockholm syndrome, except for with the addition of the whole positive reinforcement thing? Like, see, if you would only act right, like I know you can, or like you did before, then I wouldn't have to whoop your ass. Then I wouldn't have to do this. Then I wouldn't have to blah 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 blah. I know you can do it. I know you can do it because you did it before. You've done it. I mean, you got it. You the shit. You are blah 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 blah. But when you start acting like you don't know and whatever, I gotta whoop your ass. I gotta whoop. Beat, 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 beat. What situations do you know that are like that? I can think of countless amounts of situations where I've seen that in parenting. And I can think of even more situations like that when I think of the way people treat their pets. Yes, they're pets. What is probably a bigger trauma bond than seeing somebody abuse their pets? And like you abuse a dog, like a cat will take it personally if you abuse it. Like cats ain't the one. They ain't about all of that. They ain't about all of that, kissing up and being like cats aren't really all that forgiving. They really believe that they deserve love and affection, but when they don't get it, they're gonna be out. Like, all right, well, this is where the food is, and I'm trapped here, but I ain't gonna be meeting and greeting you at the door all the time. A dog will, though. You can abuse a dog, and a dog will somehow rationalize that you're the best person in the whole world. It's a little weird, but it happens. And I'm just using that as an example of what a trauma bond could be like. Because a dog may not take commands from anybody else except for the owner who beats the dog. It feels like it's his or her right to do so. So that's definitely an example of a trauma bond, but there are way more. You may have brothers and sisters or yourself or cousins or friends that you grew up with or that you met or knew. You may know of them having a trauma bond, even though you may not have known that's what it was before. How many times have you heard people that you know had parents that did them dirty, turned them in, turned them out, turned them into sauerkraut? And when they speak of their parents, they talking about some, yeah, I had the best parents that a person could ever have. And you like, Well. If you're bad, I won't whoop your ass. If you're good, if you're bad, you know that I'm going to whoop your ass. If you're good, I'm going to leave the last ass whooping where it stood. Trauma bonding. Broken trauma bonds. Broken trauma bonds. A lot of times when a person gets to a point where they can experience better treatment real positive enforcement and a greater sense of self in their lives will probably be the time when that trauma bond will be broken. You know, sometimes, you know how they say you can't miss what you never had, even though I dispute that because I think that you can. You can definitely miss what you never had. That's why you're missing it. So, anyway. You know, if you are only familiar with one type of situation or one type of person or one type of culture, when you don't know any different, and then you have the chance, maybe just by the luck of the draw, by mistake, you were forced to go experience something or somewhere differently. For example, let's say your parents were abusive to the point where somebody found out about it and Child Protective Services, whatever they call it in your region, came in and reprimanded your parents about the way that about your living conditions or the way that they've been treating you. They may have put you in foster care. Now, maybe you had never even spent the night over at anyone's house or never had a chance to have any type of freedom because maybe your parents were so overbearing and overprotective and so negatively controlling, that you never got a chance to be around anybody else for the most part. So now you're in this foster care situation, and by the luck of the draw, you were assigned to foster parents who actually gave a shit. They were actually helpful. They were actually gentle. They were actually understanding. They were actually progressive. They were actually helpers and concerned adults. Now you've been exposed to people doing what they say that they're going to do in a positive way. Now you've been exposed to people openly showing open displays of affection. I love you. You're important. You're a great person. You're really smart. You're really pretty. Maybe they were more like a parent to you than your real parents were. And now you've been exposed to that. Now all of the negative treatment that you have been receiving from your parents has taken a really bad torpedo hit, because it's like you may have been used to talking to your parents like this because they were constantly raising their hand to you, either hitting you or getting ready to, no matter what. Maybe just because you had a question, maybe just because you had a response. And now you're getting you have gotten a chance to be around someone who is a parental figure and a full-fledged adult who has other children, not just foster children, but now they have other children, and you see that they treat their children the way that they are treating you, in a good way. So now you know it would be kind of shining the light on the negative treatment that you have received. And that may be the thing that wakes you up to the fact that you have been in a trauma bond, and that might really break the trauma bond that you have had. I mean, after all, now, you know, when you have been taken from the custody of your parents who may have been abusive, you don't get a chance to be around them until everything gets straightened out and they can decide what to do with you. In a good way. Supposedly. It's supposed to be good. I mean, you don't want to be a ward of the state, but hopefully in this ward of the state situation, hopefully it was a better situation than what you had been in previously, even though what you had been in previously is something that you fully accepted because you didn't know any better. So that's kind of like what we're talking about when we say broken trauma bonds. Broken trauma bonds. What does it take? What does it take to break a trauma bond? So what do y'all know? What examples what examples come to your mind as we delve deeper into what a trauma bond may imply or may display or may be intrinsically? What trauma bonds do you know about? Do you know of any trauma bonds that have been broken? You know, one thing that can definitely break a trauma bond is death. The thing is, that may not always break it, because sometimes when a person passes away, they're often martyred. Oh yeah, they was the best. You know, Tupac was the best rapper ever, man. You know, nobody could do it. Nobody could spit like Pac. I don't remember anybody from around my way saying that when he was alive. But you know, just saying. Care Bear says, can you see my example of the coach? I don't see anything here about any coaches. I don't know what YouTube is doing. I don't know what Blog Talk is doing. I don't know what nobody is doing. But no, I do not see anything about any coaches. But speaking of coaches, I can see it. Remember that coach, Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight of the Indiana Hoosiers. Very popular college basketball team. And Bobby Knight was known for being very vocal with his players. He was very vocal, period. But definitely very vocal with his players. Very even physical with his players. And his whole thing was, this is how you win a championship. You know, I'm tough on my players, but I'm only tough on them because I see the potential in them. You know, get it? Positive reinforcement. You know, I see how great they are, and I know how the world is going to treat them when they get away from people like me who actually care about them. Coach Knight was the best thing that ever happened to me. Why? Because y'all won the championship? Bobby Knight was something else. Very vocal, very visible, well known. So, in lieu of not being able to see your coach example, Care Bear, I'm using the Bobby Knight example. Now, I don't know of any other coaches that were like that, but I've been around some sports teams, whether you talk about, mostly Little League. I haven't been around any professional sports franchises or anything like that. Shoot, tell you the truth, I've never even been around a men's softball team. So yeah, with the Little League football teams and basketball teams, I've seen some interesting things. Definitely some ridiculing, some humiliation. You know, when players aren't playing right or covering or doing the right things. So yeah, coaches, trauma bonded. Yeah, coach such and such was the best. Yeah, nobody was like coach. Yeah, man, coach was like a pop to me because I ain't had no dad. Coach was like a dad. Meanwhile, coach might have been touching you and screwing your mom. Coach Nasty. That's his name. Coach Nasty. Coach Nasty. Trauma bonds. Trauma bonds. Parents, children, pets, owners, coaches, players. Where else might we see a trauma bond? I'll tell you where. In prison. In prison. You know, you get sentenced, you know, you commit a crime, get convicted, and are sentenced to prison. Sentenced to prison time. You go in prison, and let's say somebody tries you, quote unquote, they try you in the shower, try you in your cell, and now all of a sudden you have become their boy. Yeah, maybe you tried to fight back in the beginning, but it didn't work out. And so after a while, you and that person started going together in prison. Now, pardon me, you know, for using this example, because one thing we're not going to get into is suggesting at all that everybody who goes to prison is subject to being raped or abused or whatever, because it doesn't happen to everybody. I know plenty of men who have gone to prison, and they told me, they said, man, only way you get raped in prison is if you somehow caused that to happen for yourself. Other than that, ain't nobody on that type time. We all waiting to go home like everybody else. Everybody is not going to do that. If a man ain't into that, he ain't into it, whether he's locked up or whether he's free as a bird. And I accept that, and I believe it. So, but I'm using that being a prisoner situation because where you may hate COs and prison guards for the rest of your life, you may form a trauma bond with your cellie or your guy. Your guy. K-Bear says, I wrote it again. You still can't see it? Damn. No, I don't. I don't see anything about that. Nothing. That's crazy. And I don't dare refresh this page because y'all know how that go. You know how that go. So we just gonna have to work with what we're working with. Pardon my allergies. Pardon my itchy owies. Make sure y'all hit the like button, y'all. Make sure that y'all share the show. Make sure that y'all subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Let's see if we can get this Blog Talk thing back up. Stop dragging my heart around. All right, let's try it again. Let's just try. I'm not saying it's going to work, but nothing beats a failure but a try. So we try. Try. Interesting. Now we'll get no words. Is that what you're telling me? We don't get no words? What a disgrace. That's what I call me, a disgrace. Disgrace. That's tragedy. Disgrace. Oh well. I tried, man. I tried. Trauma bonding. I hate to stay on the whole coaching thing, but since we're talking about broken trauma bonds, remember that Penn State defensive coordinator? Oh man, something ski, Satinsky. What's his name? What's his name? Abusive Penn State coach. Sandusky. Now remember, for years, sounds like decades, he was getting away with sexually abusing Penn State football players. He got away with it. He had gotten away with it for years and years, and it didn't come to a head until around 2000 what was that, around 2010? Yeah, Sandusky. Thank you. Jerry Sandusky. And he's still alive. Anyway, he had gotten away with that, with sexually abusing players on the football team for decades. And I'm sure that there was probably a trauma bond with some of those players. I'm sure that there was. And what probably broke that trauma bond with some of those players was them freeing themselves from that situation and realizing that it was wrong, even if they thought it was wrong before. Maybe they realized the severity of how wrong it was as it started to affect themselves and their careers and their ability or inability to be able to connect with people who really cared about them and really loved them. But I'm sure that Sandusky gave them a lot of positive reinforcement while he was abusing the shit out of them. I'll bet you he did. Yeah. I'm sure he did. But it finally came to a head. And hopefully it ended that trauma bond. Now, the part about it is, I don't know if Sandusky had ever been through any type of trauma himself or any type of abusive situations himself. Gabriel says, that was my coach comment. The athletes being abused but being shown favoritism. Wow. That's deep as the ocean. Yeah. Well, that's a good comment. Sorry we didn't see it, but I could see how that would definitely apply in trauma bonding situations or breaking a trauma bond. Wow. Showing favoritism but being abused. You want to start? You want to be on the start? You want to start this week? You want to start or you want to be on the bench? It's up to you. See you in the shower. I apologize for any of this sensitive information or sensitive dialogue for those who have been abused before. I really I really apologize for some of the content, but we have to learn. You know, we have to learn. We have to be able to move on from situations that have really put its stamp on our emotions, and that's whether we have parlayed those things into a trauma bonding situation or not. We have to be able to confront the things that have hurt us the most, scared us the worst, and done us the dirtiest. Somewhere else is where we want to be. Somewhere else is where we want to be, not in a trauma bonding situation. Not in a trauma bonding situation. Shout out to any and everybody out there that has had to witness, watch, and even allow a trauma bonding situation. Like, let's say in a situation where your mom or your dad was abusive, super abusive to one of your brothers or sisters, but they always were nice to you. It happens. It happens. It absolutely happens. And this is one of those things that we just have to, it's something that we got to deal with, you know what I'm saying? It's something that we got to deal with. Trauma bonding. Trauma bonding. My dad was the best dad in the world. My mom was the best mom in the world. From your point of view. I've known people who did trauma bonding. You know, one thing about children is that they look for positive reinforcement. They look for validation from their parents at every turn. From the time that they are babies, they look for positive reinforcement, appreciation, and validation from their parents. What do you think all of that, Mom, watch what I can do? What do you think that's about? When your parents are supportive of you, it can make you feel like Superman. And when you think that your parents won't support anything that you do, it can make you feel like the worst scum of the earth that you could possibly ever be. You may get love from everybody out there in the world, but if your parents never showed it to you, your lovers never showed it to you, the people that you care about the most, or should I say the people that you care about first and the most, if they never show you any love, affection, and appreciation, it's going to hurt you. It's going to weigh down on you. It's going to get to you. And it's okay if it gets to you. That shows that you're human, not some unfeeling monster. Not some unfeeling monster. No. Yeah. Trauma bonding. In a relationship or in a marriage, how would trauma bonding look? You know, I have to say that because although I've known plenty of women that stuck by their husbands through and through, or stuck by their men through and through, no matter what, through the fire, through the limit, through the wall. What I haven't heard is any women that I know who have been abused who insisted that their husband was the greatest ever. They may have accepted him as acceptable, but not the greatest. Doesn't mean that a trauma bond situation doesn't exist there. I'm not saying that at all, not in the least. However, it may have a harder time representing or proving itself. But you know, we can't discount the power of staying together. So whether you heap praise on somebody or not, the mere fact that you go back in there, spend time, show love, and try to work it out with somebody who is working against you, yeah, that may be exactly the trauma bonding that we're talking about. Could be. Man, I wanted to be able to tell y'all to call in to 319-527-6199. But this thing is really broke. This thing broke. I can't believe it. I can't, like, what am I paying for? What am I paying for? If it's a broadcasting app and I can't broadcast, what am I paying for? Tragedy, tragedy. Gabriel says trauma bonding in a marriage could be one of them cheating, but the cheater giving their spouse and lovers whenever they're in giving their spouse their flowers whenever they're in public. So at home I treat you like shit, but out here in the world you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. When we around our family, you the greatest. We around our friends, you the greatest. When I'm at the job, you the greatest. But at home, I act like I hate us. Not just hate you, but I hate myself. I hate the way that we in. I hate our wealth. I hate our home. I hate our kids. Hate our dog. I hate our car. Hate our garage. I hate our backyard. I hate our front yard, our porch. I hate our bills. I hate our steps. I hate our basement, the second floor, first floor too. I hate our ranch. I hate our duplex, the triplex. I hate all the bullshit. I hate our Victorian. I hate our double. I hate our twin. I hate everything. I hate it. So when we get home, I'll be beating on you. And I'll be teasing you and ridicule you. You dumb, fat, you horse, you cow, you heifer. And I mean a heifer. I ain't even gonna give you the black heifer. You are a heifer. Heiffer. You're a heifer. You elephant. You stink. You're ugly. You're worthless. You're stupid. You ain't got nothing going on. You used to be dope, and you used to be dope. Now it seems like you need soap. But when we out in the world, man, I love my wife, man. Yo. This is me and her against the world, baby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, come on over here, baby. Love you. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, I'm trying to tell you, I got me a superstar. Yeah, ain't no woman like the one I got. No one can love you better. There goes my baby. Ooh. Girl, look at you. You don't know how good. that's Stacey White says, unfortunately, you can always see the truth. You're not hiding in it. Well, I don't know about this. I don't know if this topic has anything to do with the truth necessarily, because we're talking about in situations where your judgment is a little bit cloudy, either by circumstance. Wow. Either by circumstance or, by some situation that has weighed heavily on your ability to discern what you should be treated or how you should be treated versus how you're actually being treated. It's not working out right. Schnot working out right. Trauma bonding. Maybe some of you have been in a trauma bond. Maybe not as severe as some trauma bonds that we may have witnessed or known about, but how deep or how much of a trauma bond do you have to be in to recognize that you should have never been in it in the first place? And it's not even your fault. And it's not even your fault. That's the part that gets me. And that's the thing about abuse. It doesn't matter. Nobody deserves to be abused. Do some people deserve to be punished? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But abuse and punishment is different. And let's make sure we understand the difference between being abused and being punished. When you're being punished, even though both may involve mistreatment or violence or something like that, but when you are being punished, it's in response to something that you have done. And a punishment is supposed to fit whatever you did wrong. And punishment is supposed to correct whatever you did wrong for the future. Abuse has no beginning. It has no catalyst. It has no provocation. When you're being abused, you don't know where it started or why it started. You just know that it's starting. Like you may have to go for the physical evidence of its origin. Like after I didn't wash the dishes or when I brought the kids up late or when I talked back to such and such, then that's when they started hitting me or started treating me differently. But it didn't have anything to do with it. Abuse has everything to do with what's going on inside of the abuser's mind and heart. It has everything to do with what's going on with the abuser. It doesn't have anything to do with you. You are a victim. And abuse doesn't stop. It may have a beginning, but it doesn't have an ending. So even after a person has been beat up or hurt or ridiculed or treated bad or whatever, an abuser doesn't stop. That's why it's abuse. See, when you use something, like if I use marijuana, like I smoke weed every now and then, or I use alcohol, I drink every now and then. Even if I use crack, okay, I smoke a rock a month. I don't know, whatever moderation applies to crack. That's different from me needing it all the time. Me needing it to go along with any and everything else that I do. So no, I'm not going to go watch my daughter's play or my son be in a production until I drink or until I get high or until I do something. That's abuse. When you use something, you regulate it. You decide when it's going to start and when it's going to stop, and that's all to it. When you abuse something, there is no end game. We'll do it and 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 do it until I get an epiphany that it's not the right thing to do anymore. Or when somebody punishes me for my abuse. So there's a difference. Stacey White says some church leaders. Wow. And I have definitely been there. Okay. Yeah, that's bad money. That's bad money. And sometimes we throw good money after bad, as they say. But yeah, Yeah, when we talk about trauma bonds and we talk about abuse, there's nothing you did or even could do to cause yourself to enter into a trauma bond. But I would always say educate yourself. Find out about what's happening in your situation. There's plenty of information out in the World Wide Web about anything and everything that you're ever going through. And you can type exactly what you mean into the search bar. And trust me, answers will start to come up. It's whether they are authentic scientific answers or blogs. They there. It's there. It is absolutely there. All right, y'all. Let's do these birthday shout outs. We have some. We have some birthday shout outs to do. Some people were born on this glorious December 30th, and they deserve to be acknowledged. So let's go about our business of acknowledging them and making them feel special because they are special because they are special because they are S-P-E-C-I-A-L. They get the R-E-S-P-E-C-T. They are S-P-E-C-I-A-L. They get the R-E-S-P-E-C-T. They are S-P-E-C-I-A-L. They get the R-E-S-P-E-C-T. They get number one out the box, Shakima Seville, go getter. Happy birthday to you. And also Tiana Everett, happy birthday to you. And Valerie Roberts, happy birthday to you. And Shakira, let me move this out of the way a little bit. Sharika Ennis, turning 39 years old today. Happy birthday to you. And India Jones, happy birthday to you. And Portia Philpott, turning 38 years old today. And last but not least, going all the way back to the 1982, my man Eric Wolf. Eric Wolf. He was a smart kid back then. He's over in Japan. Last time, I think he's still over there working in Japan or whatever. That's my dude. I want to say happy birthday to all y'all. And I hope that today finds you all in good health, happiness, mind, body, soul, and spirit. And that goes out to each and every person out there born on this glorious December 30th, anywhere out there in the world, worldwide, internationally, and universally. All of y'all go ahead and turn up. But don't turn up too loud. Just turn up loud enough so everybody can hear you. Rock out, rock on it, do the damn, rock out, rock on it, do the damn, rock out, rock on it, do the damn thing. You do your thing, y'all. Represent the queens and kings. You do your thing, y'all. Represent the queens and kings. Good things happen to those who wait. Great things happen to those who grind, and anything can happen to those who go for theirs. So go hard, go for yours, and remember, man, a trauma bond is not something that you want to be. You want to bond in another way, but you want to be free. Whatever you do, please do not allow yourself to wind up in a trauma bond. You are an important person. You're a good person. You are a person that deserves to be free. You're a person that deserves to be treated decently, respectfully, amicably, and you're a person who deserves to be able to agree and disagree with somebody without threats of violence, retaliation, hurt, humiliation, or any of those negative things that people perpetrate against each other over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Peace to all my day ones, my everydays, and my brand news. I love y'all to death. Resuscitate y'all. I love y'all right back to life. We will be back tomorrow. I gotta go to Eagles game tomorrow. So I don't know, yeah. I don't know. We gonna do something? I don't know. But love is love, baby. If we here tomorrow, then we be here tomorrow. Maybe, do it early. Because I want to do it. All right. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Make sure that y'all share the show. Make sure that y'all subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. And with that, I'm going to say peace. Blog Talk is already out of here. Yeah. And for my YouTubers, You know just how we do, but thanks for coming on through. See you on the other side, my boobas. Peace. On the other side, my boobas. Peace. On the other side, my boobas.